for Kayla and for Jeremiah, because both of you had experiences with a dialect coach. So Kayla, can you talk about that a little bit, and then Jeremiah talk about it, and then I'll turn it over to Dr. Yearwood.
Yeah, so I've only ever done like a that kind of accent before, like once in my life for like a high school production. It wasn't anywhere as good as it was this time. But yeah, my acting teacher for this semester, Miss Bria Walker, she definitely helped me out this time. We met like a couple times before this show, before we started recording the show. She helped me out a lot. It was very hard because you know, it's the placement of the words is very different from how we speak, like, well, how English speakers are. And it's very like light and airy and like towards the front of your mouth. And it was difficult at first, but you know, as I kept going, it got easier. So I really appreciate that it came off that well.
Yeah, for me, I've never had formal training when it came to accents and dialects. It was always kind of like if I knew how to do it, like that would be the one I would do. So getting a chance to like actually talk to someone about it and kind of like work through it was really interesting, and kind of like find a region or an area kind of place it in, because we actually talked about it so much because I lived in Nashville for the past couple of years, especially through high school. So places like Nashville and Atlanta, even though a lot of people like they still have strong Southern accents, you really don't see it that often because they're such like melting pot cities, especially Atlanta, which is like the Athens of the South. So it's definitely kind of a thing of just trying to figure it out for myself and everything. And honestly, it kind of made me want to learn more about dialect coaching, because I really would love to do that more and probably look at that as a career choice. So I don't know, maybe.
I think that is a great idea, and I think you should talk to Bria about that further. We need more dialect coaches. We need good dialect coaches. And we need especially dialect coaches of color who can hear and have an attitude and a certain spirit about an accent that sometimes people outside of the culture don't quite get. And so, yeah, talk to her about that. All righty, ladies, we are here. We are all in. Strap on your seatbelts. And I'm going to hand it over to, let's introduce ourselves really quick. We'll do the popcorn. Say your name and your role on the show. And stage management, you will be included. And then when we are done, you can turn off your screens. So my name is Karen, and I am the director for Hair Waiting, and I will popcorn to Niccole.
I am Niccole, and I am the writer of Hair Waiting, and I will pop it over to Lauren.
Hi everyone, I'm Lauren. I am the stage manager for Hair Waiting as well as Black and Blue. And I will popcorn Megan, but I just wanted real quick to make sure when you are not speaking, please mute yourself, because we were having a little bit of issues with echoing and feedback for the last talkback. Thank you.
I'm Megan. I am the assistant stage manager for Hair Waiting as well as Black and Blue, and I will popcorn Missy.
Hi, I'm Missy, and I was the dramaturg for Hair Waiting, and I will popcorn Gabby.
Hi everyone, I'm Gabby Yearwood. I'm a faculty member in the Department of Anthropology, and I'll be moderating the talkback. I will popcorn to Kayla.
Hi, I'm Kayla. I played Maybelle in this show, and I'll popcorn it to Jeremiah.
Hi, I'm Jeremiah, and I play Naomi in Hair Waiting. I'm gonna popcorn Lena.
Hi, I'm Lena, and I played Becky. Is that everyone? Cool.
Thank you. Dr. Yearwood.
Hello everyone, thank you. I also watched play. I sat in on one of the rehearsals, and there's a lot of really great opportunity for conversation around what you all shared in this. So I'll start off in terms of asking you about what you learned in these roles, and what you learned about hair and what you learned about hair politics by being a part of this play. And Karen, you can decide who goes first.
Sure. Let's start with Miss Lena, who played Becky. We'll go in order of appearance.
Sure. So I learned a lot. A lot of what we covered were things that I obviously didn't grow up knowing about. I loved how much research Karen did about hair politics and like Black hair throughout the centuries. I thought it was so interesting, and how it's always been incredibly important to Black people since forever. I thought that was so interesting. And just like all the different ways you could curl your hair without a curling iron was interesting to me, and I just learned a lot. And yeah, I thought it was just a cool thing to be in a show about, like, I've never been in a show about such a specific concept, and it was really interesting to be in that position of not knowing and learning from each other, and just like coming out of it knowing more, I think is really important. And yeah, I'm just grateful to have learned, because without this experience I wouldn't have known.
Thank you. Miss Gaines Stevenson, Miss Naomi.
Yeah, so for the show for me was just, I loved it. I love being a part of it, especially as a Black woman who has had her hair natural for her entire life. It was just really good to talk about things that like I've known for so long and be able to share them with other people. One thing that I really did find particularly interesting was the whole debate, because it's so paramount to my character, about like, oh, is curly hair on white people appropriation? And for me personally, I don't think it is. I think if that's your natural hair, or even if you want to, it's curls, it's not. But but I also understand that like for Black women, our hair is such it's an integral piece of who we are as people. So I don't know. I just feel like having these debates and like talking about these things that go on in the Black community and in the hair community in itself are just so important, especially in a format like theater.
Miss Kayla.
To kind of piggyback off of what Jemiah said, I haven't been natural for that long. I've saved for maybe like 3 years max. And it was nice to just learn more about the history of like my hair and like why I'm actually doing this, and like just to understand how like the meaning behind it and why it's so influential and like important to Black culture and everything. And I also say like I've only had the discussion about cultural appropriation like maybe once in my life. So it was nice to have sit down and talk to other people and get their perspective on it, because I had that conversation in high school and it wasn't the best, honestly. It was very an argument type of conversation. Well, not even a conversation, just argumentative. So it was nice to just sit down and just have a casual conversation and just talk about if it's different perspectives on it.
I'm gonna unmute myself. I have to say something really funny that Jeremiah did to me one time that I thought was the cutest thing, and I thought was really classy the way to let somebody know that they're muted. Is I don't know if she tapped her nose or she tapped right here, and I knew that I was muted. So I'm just gonna pass that on. I would like for Missy Barber, who is our dramaturg, to answer this question. What did you learn, Missy, doing the research?
And you did a great job. You did an awesome job, Missy.
Oh, thank you. Yes, this is a subject I had heard about before, because I make a point to read up on these issues, and I'd seen news stories about how school dress codes and workplace attire codes disproportionately target natural hair, especially on Black women. So it was really interesting to dive into the history of that and learn how far back people have been talking about this issue and trying to bring to attention the fact that this is a thing that people are being discriminated for. Back in the civil rights movement, when the Black is Beautiful movement was a part of that, they were trying to say that this is something that they had to deal with in society. And I know that we're still having these conversations, obviously, but it's just a good reminder that people have been trying to tell us for a very long time.
Thank you, Missy. Ms. Diane? So Dr. Yearwood, can you repeat the question?
Sure, I was just about to. Hi, Dial. The question that I've just posed to the group was what you may have learned about hair and hair politics in being in the play.
Clearly, can you hear me? Okay, I'm sorry. My Wi-Fi has not been cooperating with me at all this week. But I was really excited to be in this play because a lot in my personal life, and just having to, like, the feeling of always having to prove that I am Black is very prevalent, and it is prevalent for many people that are mixed, or just, even if they're not mixed, then they do consider themselves to be fully Black. It's you're having an identity crisis, but yeah, I liked seeing things from was teased for her hair. She didn't have it's a different experience for everyone, and I think that's what I like learning the most about.
Dr. Yearwood?
Sure, I don't know if the playwright, Niccole, if you wanted to talk a little bit about, even what you may have learned or what you would hope people would learn about hair and hair politics.
Well, what I would hope people would learn is to not discriminate on persons based on their hair textures or how they may wear their hair. Even like amongst Black women, we have that in us. If a girl has quote unquote good hair, then she is. It doesn't necessarily even matter about her complexion, but because you could be Indian or, you have Asian or something else besides, to make the difference. So I just hope people learn that we're all, like as far as African-American Black women are concerned, we're, regardless of how we wear our hair, we all kind of experience the same things, whether it be like with the one character where she's being discriminated against because she had, like she said, Sandra, when she was discriminated when she was younger because she had the quote unquote good hair, and people thought other Black girls wouldn't accept her. So she kind of felt out of place. And then you had the Naomi where they did that because she was teased because of her kinkier hair when she was younger. And now, that's a symbol of pride and joy to have that thick hair. So it's just, like they say, it's good if it's on your head. So that's just really what I want people to see, is that hair is hair and it's part of our individuality. So everyone's not going to have it the same.
Great, thank you all. This sort of connects to that, and I'm thinking specifically about a particular moment with Jeremiah's character, where she's discussing her having to deal with being a businesswoman and not being perceived as an angry businesswoman, and so altering her hairstyle to avoid certain stereotypes and societal expectations. So I'm wondering if you all could talk a little bit about what that might mean in terms of the decisions Black women or women of color have to make about their hairstyles to either fit or avoid social expectations about who they are?
We'll start with Jeremiah.
So I love this question because I immediately thought of my senior year in high school, because I never really had the issue going in class with people being like, oh, that's a style. Like, it was usually people were very respectful of my hair. They were like, oh my, your hair looks really nice. Oh, thank you. But this senior year, they essentially told us that we couldn't wear head wraps to school. And the justification that they gave to us was because it was the same thing as letting boys wear baseball caps. And that made no sense to me, because they are completely different things. So even if, for me, you definitely do have some people who are willing to like acknowledge the fact that, yeah, like Black women's hair is hair. It is to be respected. It's to be appreciated. Like, it doesn't, even in a business context, like, it is just hair. Like, there's no reason to discriminate with someone. But even so, you still have people who are like, yeah, no. So definitely, like, that entire concept is just, it needs to be fixed.
Thank you. Miss Gayla, Maybell.
I'll say I had the same experience as Jeremiah in my senior year of high school. It's like legit the last year I was there, and we were told we couldn't come to school with headscarves anymore. People still did it, but of course we got in trouble for it. But yeah, and it also reminds me of the time when I'm also senior year. I was applying for scholarships to for college and everything, and I was going in for an interview, and I had to. Well, my parents suggested I should straighten my hair for the interview, because their reasoning was we don't want to give them any reason to not give you the scholarship, which is fair. But I still felt like I shouldn't have had to straighten my hair for this particular reason. And I just feel like there's so many different styles that Black women can do, and they're not inappropriate anyway. They're not unprofessional anyway. Black hair can be professional in any way that it's in. Braids can be professional. Locks can be professional. Even if it's out, like, or even a puff, it can be professional if you make it look presentable, So I felt like, so that's something I always think about a lot. And it's like, I didn't feel like I should have had to straighten my hair for that particular interview.
Thank you. Diane. Frozen. Dale, can you speak to that?
Sorry. Can you hear me? Yes, okay. So it was cutting out a little when the question was being asked, but from what I understood from the responses, it's like we have to be constantly thinking about, just like constantly be thinking 2 steps ahead of what people could think, just in case. I mean, this doesn't have to do with hair necessarily, but I always, when I'm going to a place that is, I mean, almost anywhere now, I always try to look really good when I go to the store or anywhere, because if you look even a little, like, I don't know what the word would be in English, but
Dusty.
right, basically. So where a white person could show up to Target in pajamas, if we show up to Target in pajamas, like, I mean, I've had people follow me thinking that I'm going to steal something. So I always try and look really good when I go to the store so that, people maybe think, okay, well, maybe she has a little more money or something, which sucks, but it's the reality that we live in. So
Yes, thank you. Lena, I'm going to ask you to respond in how you how you feel?
Yeah, that's so upsetting. And it's a constant reminder of the privilege I have. Like, I hadn't even thought about wearing a nice outfit to Target. You know, I would want to wear my pajamas to Target, like, to be more comfortable. So something as simple as that, all the way to, you know, the extremes, affect our lives differently. And it's I appreciate the reminder of my privilege. And it frustrates me too that people have to go through something as silly as dressing nice so that they can be respected. Yeah, that's how I feel hearing that.
I'm going to extend this to the playwright. There were so many points that you could have put in this, like, so many. And you have a play that addresses the broader heritage, that addresses the broader conversation. But for this particular point that we're talking about, can you talk about that a little bit?
Okay. Well, I wanted to show that even in today, you know, like Black women are discriminated against our hair, and you never know what the reason is. Like, I think it was Jeremiah who said somebody when they were going to an interview. But I know for myself, I've had locks for over 25 years, and when I used to work in corporate America, I braided my hair and put it in under a wig, and everyone was so surprised. But I'm like, I'm doing it. I'm like, I will. The first day of work, I'll wear my locks, but first let me get in the door, because if I don't get the job, you know, you have no reason why you don't get it. They're not saying, you know, you have locks, I'm not hiring you. So I just went on interviews with knowing that, and it bothered me. And then that's when I decided, well, I don't want to be in corporate America anymore. But when you have to do something, you have to do it. And it's just, the discrimination is kind of, like someone said, silly and ridiculous, because you know, you have to judge women for what was inside, not on the outside. And for Black women to be judged, a woman with an afro is unkempt, or, you know, she's militant. You know, a woman like me with locks, she's Rastafarian, or, you know, and it's just like the stereotype still exists. It's getting better because more corporate women and more politicians and professionals and newscasters. I really love that newscasters are now wearing their hair natural, because those are, you know, they're validated because they're giving you, you know, information on what's happening in the world. So these women, these educated women, are standing here giving you information you need, then maybe that will slowly start to change. So I'm hoping that, you know, with the play, it opens up that conversation more, where, you know, like someone maybe like Lena might say, I didn't even realize, you know, because you don't go through that. So somebody seeing the play, like, do you guys really? And they may talk to their Black female friends, and like, yeah, it happened, you know. And so then maybe things can start to change, where people are almost embarrassed that they're discriminating against someone because of their hair.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Yearwood.
Thank you all. I want to move in a slightly different direction with this next question. And a running theme, or a significant theme in the play is about cultural appropriation. And there's a lot that gets discussed in terms of hair as an example of cultural appropriation. So if you could each talk a little bit about, you know, what you thought as an actor, or for your character, what that might mean. And then also sort of connected to that with the tradition of Black women straightening their hair is not necessarily cultural appropriation, but there's something else that's significant that I think is worth exploring and sharing. So if you can talk about some of those things, that would be great.
Dr. Yearwood, could you repeat that question? Dial just chimed back in really quick.
Sure. So I was asking folks to think about the theme of cultural appropriation, and why hair seems to be a central component to cultural appropriation when we see it happening. But also, what does it mean, or how do we think about when Black women are straightening their hair? It's not cultural appropriation, but there's something significant and important to discuss about what that might mean in a slightly different way.
Can we start with the playwright on this one?
Okay. So, as far as in the play, well, it was defined like well, one was accusing Becky of cultural appropriation because she wanted to wear her hair like, because she has a black boyfriend, she's going to a Juneteenth celebration, so she wants to wear her hair curly, which may make her look Spanish or something else, something different. And I think that's what Naomi was seeing. So like sometimes you unintentionally do something and you don't realize. So I think that's what she was trying to, somewhat check Becky on, like just so that you know what you're doing. It's okay to honor and to appreciate another's culture and what's, but if you are just doing it for some women like blackfishing, they do it for financial gain. Like there's a lot of women now on social media, white women that are curling their hair and tanning and then they're like, oh, they're like a pretty light skinned girl, but they're not. They're white, and so that to me, that's wrong. Whereas black women with straightening our hair, I don't, because that's not appropriation. It's more so it's been ingrained that straighter is neater. Like it's more acceptable, it's more appropriate. I even remember when I was growing up, and I felt like my family was pretty conscious, but on Easter, we got our hair straightened. And as I got older, I talked to my mom about, we used to always get our hair straightened on Easter and we'd be excited about it. And, but when you really think about it, like you should have probably did maybe braids or something different, but it also makes your hair swing a little bit more. I know that that's what I liked about it, is being able, to be able to, just swing my hair around, and it made it longer because, the shrinkage is real. So I think like for black women to see your hair longer, just see it different than what it normally is. So maybe some are doing it to look more European, but I think most are doing it just because it's kind of more easier to manage, I suppose. It's, little laziness is, and just to be more accepted in society. So people aren't judging you. Curly, natural hair, people who judge natural hair, they think twice about them, like, because why is she natural? Like, what is it about you? Like, like, is it that confidence? Is it naturalism? What is, like, so I think for black women straightening their hair, they should really think about it. Like I tell people, because they're like, oh, like one woman wore a head wrap to one of my play heritage. And she's like, oh, I thought this, and I was like, she's like, oh, I'm gonna take my head wrap off, because she did show the straight haired woman. And she's like, and she had straight hair. And I said, no, it's not to make anyone feel bad about how they wear their hair. Just think about why you're doing it. If you're doing it because it's easier, your hair can take it. I have a sister that has very, very thick hair. So she gets a relaxer because it's painful to comb through her hair, she says. And maybe it would be for me if I didn't have locks. I don't know. But if the reasoning why you're doing it is sincere and it's not to try to be like someone else or to deny your culture, then I don't see a problem, with it. Even with white women wearing curly hair, like wear your hair however you want. I'm not saying they have naturally curly hair, some of them, but I'm talking about like trying to wear like the double strand twist if you take out that kind of ethnic look to it. What's that about? What's that for?
Gotcha. Thank you. I'm gonna start with Kayla. Maybell.
Yeah, I totally agree. It makes me think of as far back as I can remember, every time there was a special event, Easter, it was student picture day, it was going over my family member's house for Christmas, something like that. It was always your hair has to be done. So it was straightened. It was put in pigtails, still straightened. Anything, it was just straightened. And it's the presentable way. Like the way my parents thought about it back then before I convinced them, I want to do this to my hair. But back then it was always, your hair needs to be straight if you want to look presentable for something. And in terms of cultural appropriation, I'll say like what usually my thoughts are. It's in regards to hair, it's not my place to tell anybody what they should or shouldn't do to their hair or whatever. When it comes to white people doing some type of ethnic hairstyle, you should do your research about the hairstyle and understand like why, the meaning behind certain hairstyles if you really want to do it. And then it's like, understand that maybe your hair can't exactly do it. Some people, some thinner or straight hair can't exactly, be in braids for that long. And I mean, if you want to do it, that's fine. Just understand that just do your research before you decide to do a certain style.
Thank you. Ms. Gaines Stevenson, you want to speak to that?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with Kayla. Definitely do your research before hairstyle, because I've seen recently a lot of like non-black people doing locks on their hair, especially if they have a more fine or straight hair texture, and you see them in later years taking it out, and it's like all this dirt and buildup because they don't know how to properly care for their hair. Whereas us as black people, we have spent so long refining the craft of caring for our hair. We've used bacon grease to do our hair. Like, we've used all these different methods. So I definitely feel like just doing your research, taking that extra step just to understand the history of hair, the history of your own hair, and how this impacts other people is just so important, just to the greater context of cultural appropriation. Because if you just did a bit of research, we wouldn't have the issues we had. So, you know.
Wonderful, thank you. Ms. Lena, and then Dielle, you'll wrap that question up.
Yeah, I agree with what everyone's saying. And I think it's interesting to look at Becky's character and to note that it was her boyfriend's sister who recommended she get her hair done a certain way. So I think whether you're conscious of it or not, it comes from both sides. If you're inviting a white person to an event that's going to be majority, if not fully, Black people, she might want her hair to look a certain way, but also they might want her hair to look a certain way. And I think that's really interesting to think about why that is. And I think as a white person, it's important to go to these events, be the one white person there, have your straight hair, and feel the differences and feel what it's like to be an outsider, which is something that we don't often feel. And it's like being in this show, being the one white person in the cast, small cast, so it wasn't as noticeable, but it makes me think of like Hamilton, there's maybe one or two white characters. So being in that role I think it's a really beneficial position for a white person to be in, to experience just the tiniest bit of what it's like to be the outsider because of your race, and to be uncomfortable and to be like, I don't really get what they're talking about, but that's okay. I felt lucky to get to be in that position.
So I have to ask this question. This is purely selfish, but I'm going to ask this question to you. I'm going to ask this question to Missy as well. And I guess my question is, do the both of you feel comfortable after working on this show? Should you run into an encounter where a situation where Black hair comes up, do you feel comfortable speaking where you can? Do you feel comfortable after being on this show having some say and being anti-racist and speaking about that, speaking up?
Very much so, more so than before. And I'm glad about that. I feel like if the situation presents itself for me to speak, I feel more inclined now, which is a good thing for sure.
Yeah, I'm actually a political science major, so anyone who knows me knows I'm not scared to tell people anything. I will share all my opinions with everybody, and I'm glad that this is another area that I have enough knowledge to speak on now. Of course, I have to be careful of speaking over people who know even more than me. If there's a Black person who is having this conversation, of course, that is their place. But if I was in a room of all white people and maybe people were saying something ignorant or didn't know the history behind these hairdos, I hope that I would have the courage to tell them the truth and let them know what's actually going into this conversation that they might not have heard about before.
Fantastic. Thank you. Dr. Yearwood?
Thank you all again. What amazing responses. Another component to this, and race has been an underlying theme throughout all of this. And so I want to think about gender for a moment, and that the play revolves around women and women's hair. And as a father with a Black daughter and a Black wife, and a Black mother and a Black sister, my relationship to hair was different. And so what does it mean that men are not completely absent, but are absent in this space, but also that there's a very important social dynamic, especially in women of color communities, between mothers and daughters, between sisters, between Black female friends, about it being an all woman space, and that hair provides some of that opportunity.
Oh, we'll start with Miss Dielle, Sandra in the play.
Can you repeat the last part of the question? I'm sorry, it cut out.
Just in terms of thinking about the social aspect that comes along with hair and women of color and Black women, that it also provides a sense of community and spending time. So I think about, my daughter and her mom and watching them when their hair, sitting together for hours together, once, daughter sitting on the floor, mom sitting on the sofa, and her hair, and she's doing her hair, and that's, a few hours that they're spending together. So it's not just about the hair, it's about spending time together.
Thank you. So for me, actually, my mom is Mexican. She does have curly hair, but she never really placed as much importance to her hair as like I have. So my dad actually was the one who did my hair growing up. He had a sister and he used to help her, so he did my hair when I was young. So I'm not really sure within the Black community, because it was mainly my dad who would do my hair. But I think growing older and when I started to do it myself and started having more Black girlfriends and just talking about hair, it is really important. And sometimes it is stressful dealing with our hair. But I think the fact that, I had a group of people that I could be like, hey, like, I don't know, because I didn't grow up around, like, in the Black community, I think once I especially got into high school, it was like a blessing to find other girls with my hair type where I could be like, hey, I want to try braids or whatever, and they could help me out, and having my dad help me as well. It is a really beautiful sense of community. So yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. Let's go to Miss Kayla.
Yeah, so when I was growing up, my dad had like a full head of hair and everything, so my mom would actually do his hair for him sometimes. Like I would see them in the living room. My dad sitting between her legs, just giving him cornrows before he goes off to work for the night. And then like one day I came home from school and he had a whole shaved head, and it was it was great. And then but in terms of, I think my dad was always present when it came to hair and everything. He always had some type of input when it came to my hair. And then as I was growing up, my brothers actually, they started like doing their own hair journey with me kind of. After they saw me doing my own hair, they decided they wanted to start doing their own hair. Like my older brother, he wants to grow his hair out into a little afro. My little brother, he has a high top fade or whatever, and I twist his hair for him sometimes. So then he asked me questions. My older brother asked me questions. And as I was growing up in high school, I saw more men my age growing their hair out. It wasn't just like the low cut or the high top fade. It was more like afros or locks or whatever. Everyone was growing their hair out, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. I've never, like when I was in middle school or whatever, all I saw was the one hairstyle, but now everyone's like doing different things with the hair. So I thought that was really cool. And I think men should be in the conversation as well. Like, well, Black men should be in the conversation as well when it comes to natural hair.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Miss Lena, and then Mr. Maya will wrap us up with that question.
What can I add to this conversation we're having? I like hearing these stories of you and your family. I think it's really nice, and it's interesting to learn that it is more than just, you know, doing your hair. It is a community. It is a sense of it's a sense of love with your family, and sitting down and having your mom or dad do your hair for hours, talking to them, stuff like that. You know, my mom cuts my hair in my kitchen, and that's always nice. Of course, that takes like 20 minutes, so, you know, it's different. But no, it does make me think of in my life, in my family, and in my culture as a Jewish person, how we interact with each other and the things we're able to share with each other, you know, celebrating and bonding over our physical traits that we share. So it's nice to see this, and it's nice to know that this sense of community exists, I think, over all different ethnicities and religions and races in all sorts of communities.
Thank you. Mr. Maya?
Yeah, no, I've had to catch myself a couple times because like hearing all this stuff, I think about my mom because for me and her, like doing our hair is a ritual. It's every 2 weeks, like she'll let me wash and detangle it because I'm like, you brush too hard. And then like she'll do it for me. And it's always like 3 to 4 hours. Some styles are faster, some styles take more time. But like just being away from her and like having to do my own hair now, like sometimes I'll call her in the middle of and just be like, how do you do this? How have you been doing this for the last 19 years? And or like I'll take a picture of her when I'm halfway through, just like, oh, one half done, time for the other half. So it's just a ritual. It's a bonding moment between like parents and their children and like passing down these stories that have been like in our families for so long. So it's just a moment, honestly.
Yeah, it is a moment. And after listening to all of you tell your stories, I have a similar moment that just happened where I needed a little, you know, touch up because I had just bleached my hair and I needed to touch up because it was just a little uneven. And I went to get the clippers. And my son saw me in the bathroom and he said to me, "What are you getting ready to do?" I was like, "I'm just going to clean my hair." And so he was like, "Oh, no, I'll do it for you, Mom." And my son is 15. So we went downstairs and with the clippers, and he took the comb, the fine tooth comb, and went through my TWA, and it was like whipping through my hair. It hurt. But what was funny is that I had seen the barber do something similar to him as he was, you know, getting his hair cut, and so he did that to me. I couldn't be mad because he was just sort of looking at and doing a ritual that he had seen done. So just to add the little bit of a young male perspective to doing hair, we do copy what we see and what we know that happens in our culture with hair. So I just thought I would bring that up. Okay, Dr. Yearwood.
Sure, great, thank you. I was sharing with Karen earlier my claim to fame with hair with my daughter when she was a little bit younger and doing ballet. I got really good at doing ballet buns to the point where other girls in our class would line up for me to do their hair, and their parents would know, like, oh, just go ask her dad to do your hair for you because, you know, they didn't have time to like drop the kids off. And so, and I think what's important about the gender dynamics is like me as a young boy not thinking about that as part of fatherhood, right? And so it's great to hear you share about, brothers and fathers being involved in the experience with hair. Niccole, I didn't know if you wanted to add anything to it.
Well, just about like the community of doing hair, like Black women, I don't like going to the hair salon, but I don't to get my hair done, but I actually opened up one maybe 10 years ago just for the business side of it, but then also like the gossip, to get stories, being a writer, because you get the best, that's where I wrote Heritage. You get the best story, because Black women, like that's like our church, our counseling sessions, it's just, so yeah, like to get like when we cut our hair off, like Karen, I don't know, like if you stop going to the salon, like cold turkey, my sister, she missed, her get our hair done, you hang out, because men don't like it, but that's our time, like that's our woman cave to be there with, amongst our own. So yeah, I think with hair, there is a huge sense of community with African American women, and I love it. I think it's great. I'm sorry, I don't see more sitting on the porches anymore doing the hair,
I'm trying to be conscious. I don't know if we have time for one more, or if we should be wrapping up.
Lauren?
We should probably be wrapping up, but if there's like, something for like 30 seconds that everyone would like to say, I think we have time for
that. Can I just say, as the writer, Karen, you did a great job. You all did. I mean, from Lauren, the Missy, all of you, and then you actresses, of course. Like, this is the second time this has been done, and I had a lot of people that saw it the first time watch it just because I wanted them to compare, and they're like, just as good, if not better, like great. They love the ending where you put the pictures and everything, and they said, I told them I didn't cast it, but they're like, you always cast so well, like the people are, and I'm like, it's the casting, but it's also the actresses. They bring it to, they bring that to the role. Like, they may not be anything like that, but then they bring it there. Like, I know Jemiah, I can tell that you're a nice, sweet girl. So you're definitely not like that character, but then you still brought that there in all of you. And then Lena, you being the only Caucasian in the show and dealing with the issues and the topics that maybe made you feel a little uncomfortable at times. And like you said, and I appreciate that, you don't mind it. You want to be the white person there. You want to be the minority because you usually aren't. So I appreciate that you recognize that. And, I hope that from this, you got a little bit more understanding and appreciation of our culture, but because I think that's a beautiful thing. And like I said, you all did wonderful. Karen, you did great. That's why I wasn't even on any of the rehearsals, because I was just like, you know what, she's gonna do a great job. And Lauren, I get a lot of emails from her, so many. Like, oh my God, do I have to see all these, but it's, it's beautiful. You all wonderful. Thank you so much. Like, I appreciate it. I want to hire you to be my stage manager on some of my projects, because it was wonderful. So thank you all. And Gabby, thank you for moderating tonight. This is like the first time I've really done this kind of talk back, and it's been beautiful. It's been wonderful, and you've all been just excellent. I feel blessed to have worked with all of you.
So then I just want to say like two things, and because you talked about casting, and Lena, I'm really not going to try to put your business in the street, but I'm sort of going to have to put your business in the street a little bit. When Lena auditioned, she went into quarantine and sent Lauren a note, hey, I'm gonna audition, but I'm in quarantine, and I cast her anyway with an understudy, of course. And at one point, Lena, she said to me, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do this. And I said to her, I said, you brought the perkiness to Becky that the playwright, had expressed to me, and I knew what she meant by that perkiness. And when you came to the audition, you brought that. And so I even said to you, I'll wait for you to get out of your COVID situation or whatever was happening, because of the dynamic that you had with the other actresses at the reading for the audition, which I thought was amazing. But this is one of my favorite things I'm going to say is that I had originally not intended Kayla to get anywhere near Ma Bell. Maybelle, and it was an accident because I wasn't paying attention. Somebody sent me a text, and I was paying. See what happens? I'm putting my business in the street. But what happened was, so I had to hurry up and fix it. So I said, now Kayla, just be Maybelle. So they went off and they came back. And Kayla came out of the gate swinging, accent and everything. And I sat there for a second and I looked and I said, you've got to be kidding me. Because I was sold on Jeremiah being Mabel, and it was a really bit of a happy accident, because then what happened was, at that moment, the parts all solidified themselves where they were supposed to be. So yes, Kayla, you were. I was looking at it, it was like, there's no way, and you blew me away at the audition. Came with an accent she had never even done before. So, but all of you brought such intense personality and beauty to this piece, and this was I saw this piece in San Diego and reached out, and you've heard the story 5,000 times, but this was a work of beauty from my heart that I could not have done by myself. With Niccole's beautiful words and with the stage management and with everything that went together. But this piece for real was probably one of my favorite pieces of work personally. That other stuff I do because it's historically good, but this one for me, being with hair and YouTube videos and stuff, personally was wonderful. So thank you. I've gone on too long. Gabby, can you please wrap us up?
I have to follow that. Why would I follow that? All I have to say is I was blown away that all the actors were first semester students and young in their career. But this play was great. Thank you all for sharing, being honest and genuine with your responses and your insight into being a part of this. And thank you again for letting me be a part of it and helping be a part of the conversation.
Lauren, anything you want to say on behalf of stage management?
No, just it was wonderful to get to work with all of you. I was impressed every single rehearsal with just the quality of the work. I know that virtual shows are hard and they're weird and they're very, very different. And they bring a whole set of challenges that none of us were expecting last year. But I thought that everyone did amazing work. And I feel very lucky that I was able to work with all of you.
Thank you. Megan, are you there?
Yes, hello. I would just like to second everything Lauren said. It was a lot of fun getting to work with you guys. I'm really glad that we got the chance to do this. It's always a little bit weird doing so much online, but I think it was a really good experience and I had a lot of fun and I really enjoyed doing it.
Thank you. And I'll let our playwright send us off into the night.
Once again, thank you all. You have been a blessing, and everyone really enjoyed this show. I think it's hard to do Zoom shows. Like Lauren said, they're weird. I think it can get boring. But even my 80-year-old uncle, I wanted him to watch Black and Blue because he kind of helped me write it. It just, as a Black man. But I was like, you don't have to watch the second one, Uncle. He's 80 years old. He's tired. He's like, oh, I love that second. He's talking about Kayla's accent, and he's from the Caribbean. He looks a lot like Gabby, actually, just older, an older version. And so just to say, I appreciate, everyone was entertained. They left the night on a high note because the first one was a little bit heavy. So you guys brought the light, you brought laughter, and it was much appreciated in these times. So you are doing a service. So be proud of yourselves. Give yourselves a pat on the back because you guys, all of you, backstage, production, actresses, our wonderful director, our amazing stage manager and assistant stage manager, and then the dramaturg. Missy, you did such a good job. My line sister was reading it and she's like, oh, I love it. I love what she did. I love it. I love that she put the study guide in there. And I said, isn't she great? And then, so just thank you all. Did great. Now you can enjoy, relax, and tell other people about the show because it's going on for like another week, right here.
Yeah, the 21st, I believe.
Okay.
Folks can stream it. So I'm gonna plug. You all plug, and have a wonderful evening, everyone. And if I don't see you or hear, happy holidays. Stay safe. Be well. And ladies, if Niccole doesn't mind, I'm gonna send a copy of Heritage to you, where this play, where Hair Waiting stemmed from, so you get an idea of that particular
And feel free, you actresses, to send me your headshots because now that we're in the virtual world, you don't have to be in New York to work with me. So if you'd like to, then just feel free. And when I can place you, I like to work with people over and over. So all of you, I'd be happy to work with. And like I said, I'm going to steal Lauren from Pitt and bring her on over. So thank you so much.
And I do design Oscar gowns, just so you know.
Okay, there you go. You're my costumer for sure.
I'm putting it out there, everybody. Whatever capacity you roll up on that party, you make sure you see me. Right? Right. All right, everybody. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all. God bless.
Yes, God bless and be well.
Bye.
Good night.
Thank you. Thank you, Nicole.